Hi, and welcome to Fabric Frenzy, your monthly source of news, spotlights, deep dives, and more around Microsoft Fabric. My name is Matthias Helker, and I will now guide you through the news of what we have from Fabric for November. And today we also, of course, have a special spotlight, which is the Copilot features. So today we'll look at some of the ways that Copilot can help our work within Fabric, within data engineering, data science, Power BI, and Data Factory. So for anyone new tuning in who are not completely certain what exactly Fabric is or where this is completely new, a very quick recap here is that Fabric is the new end-to-end platform that would help us with everything around our data analytical workloads. So we can fetch our data. We can prepare that data inside the Fabric platform. We can finally use that data, make it worth something, and of course, along the way, store the data, manage it in the unified one lake. So it's a one platform to manage all our data loads, all our data tasks, and everything we want to do around our data to do proper analytics, AI, machine learning, and so on. November has been quite an eventful month in the topic of Fabric. We have had some major releases. There are some very big news, and there's probably much more than we can cover in this session because the list is very long. But there are some key features I would like to point out. Copilot was released in public preview in Fabric as of November. So in a range of the experiences, we can now use Copilot's features to accelerate, to improve, and to help us with our work that we do with our data inside Fabric. And then probably the biggest news of all is that Fabric went into general availability, meaning that we can now go live in Fabric with production scenarios. It's now a supported feature by Microsoft. We don't have to fear that it's going away over the weekend or something like that. It's an established offering, an established service, and it's much more mature than what we saw at the release of the public preview. We also are looking into some enhanced visualization options in Power BI, which will really help us make more sleeker, neat-looking designs that can hopefully help by making reports easier to understand and better to use. Then we also have Data Wrangler. I mean, Data Wrangler is not new in Fabric, but its usability just got a lot better because Data Wrangler now supports Spark data frames instead of only Pandas data frames, which means that the main kind of data processing, data transformation that we might be doing in PySpark in a notebook, we can now use Data Wrangler to help build our code with Visual 8 now as well. And finally, we also saw the release, or at least the hint of a new Fabric certification, a certification that is going live in the beginning of next year with, I believe, initial previews in January or the full release. There is a release date in January. So we're looking to certify ourselves and demonstrate that we know our way around the different workloads in Fabric. This is a neat way to do so. So let's jump right in. The first step is the new visualization enhancements for Power BI. Because if we were to build a report today, we would have to rely on the classic visualization options. Of course, we could do third-party integration, third-party visualizations, but with the standard set of visualizations, we're kind of bound to the core visuals. Now, the product team at Microsoft has been working very hard on enhancing the capabilities of these core Power BI visuals. And two of the visuals that they gave an overhaul this around this time has been the tile slicer and the multi-row card. So the tile slicer, whenever we want to make buttons that we can click and use for selecting slices or filters of our data. So what's new here? Well, it used to be a simple button with not that many formatting options. But with the new slices, we can do much more. We can add images, we can add subheaders, we can add formatting options based on some sort of criteria, and we can make really sleek looking selection buttons like the example that you can see here on the page. So that's definitely going to be improving the look and feel and usage of our reports. Secondly, there is the multi-row card, which is a really nice visualization if we want to show multiple values of our data in sort of a collected overview. But it just hasn't been able to compete with some of the third-party visualizations and third-party tools, and at times have felt lacking. But with the new update, we again have a whole new range of capabilities. First of all, it's looking so much better. We have options for formatting the background differently between the main value and the sub-values, as you see here. We can add icons to the individual measures, the individual metrics. We can have a header, proper distancing between the numbers, and we can have these sub numbers with something like a percentage increase, like you see here, conditionally formatted with neat colors. So again, with this new option for our reference labels in the multi-card, we can make a much better looking, much easier to understand and use overview of our key metrics in our reports. So all in all, very nice enhancements to what we can do with our visualizations today that we couldn't do last month. So that was the visualization enhancements. And I should emphasize that this is just the beginning. The Power BI Core Visuals team is working really hard on revamping all the visualization that has been lacking or could use the new functionalities. And they're quite open on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so forth, with sharing the progress along the way. So if you're interested in visualizations, I can only recommend to follow the hashtag PBI Core Visuals. Just a personal recommendation. So next news is the Data Wrangler for Spark. So Data Wrangler was here already since the launch of the public preview of Fabric. Data Wrangler is the tool that allowed us to go in and configure a Pandas data frame, do some modifications using the UI, and then based on those modifications, some Python code would be generated that could then manipulate this Pandas data frame. So it's pretty neat for someone who's a beginner in writing Python, or even for an established, experienced programmer who just want to avoid writing out a few lines of code and just click some buttons instead. It tracks all the steps of our processing and it reverts into code. So the new thing is that it now works with PySpark. It works with the notebooks that we can use in the data engineering and data science. It works with PySpark, and it can generate not Python code for Pandas, but now also PySpark code for our PySpark data frames. Meaning that we can now use this Data Wrangler tool for our notebook-based data transformations workflows. Because honestly, Pandas was more oriented towards machine learning, AI, and those kind of use cases. And for actual data transformations, we would often just rely on PySpark. And now we can also use this tool to generate our PySpark. So we now have the option between Data Wrangler to help us write the code ourselves, and of course also being assisted by Copilot, which we will look into just a bit. Aside from the visualizations, the Data Wrangler, we of course also, before I go to the next one, we of course also had so many more news that I would love to bring here, but the list, because of the release of Fabric, is just very extensive. So these are some of the core news, but one of them is of course also the new Fabric certification, because we can now be a certified Fabric Analytics Engineer Associate. Why this need to be 4 long words, I don't know, but this will be the title. So I guess if you are sitting out there and wanting to call yourself a Fabric Analytics Engineer Associate, you can get this certifications. But joke aside, I think it's a nice step from Microsoft to allow us to demonstrate our skills within Fabric, and they actually cover many of the needed skill sets pretty well in the certification. So the certification page is already there. You can go check it out today if you'd like. It has whatever skills we need to learn, and it has the overall list, as you can see here on the slide, skills at a glance. We have to be able to plan, implement, and manage a solution for data analytics. We have to be able to prepare, serve data, implement and manage a semantic model, and explore and analyze data. Basically, we need to be able to do end-to-end analytics within the Fabric platform. But if you go into the page and you're interested in this certification, you can dig into each of those topics and find out what exact pieces of knowledge, topics that you need to familiarize yourself with to prepare yourself for the certification, but also to prepare yourself for using Fabric as a whole. And luckily, everything around this certification is covered by the Microsoft Learning freely available mini courses as well. So you could, of course, sign up for a paid course somewhere, but you could also get started today with the tutorials and training materials available directly in the same learning center where you would find the certification. So that's really nice. Yeah, it's a beta certification, and it will be available from January 2024. And for those who are curious about it, the new exam will be called Implementing Analytic Solutions Using Microsoft Fabric. And yeah, the certification itself is Fabric Analytics Engineer Associate. So hopefully someone out there is an aspiring new certification holder of this certification. Next news is the spotlight of today, Copilot. Because Copilot is everywhere to be seen in this month's news. So if I go to the page of the Fabric news and just search for Copilot, it immediately gave me 44 places that Copilot is mentioned throughout the news. And looking through the major areas that are now utilizing Copilot, I located at least 4 of them. So we have Copilot features inside the Data Factory experience. We have Copilot features inside the data engineering experience. We have Copilot features in the data science experience. And finally, we have Copilot features in the Power BI experience. And probably before we end this session, I will have said Copilot more than those 44 times that's on the news page, but that's fine. So one thing is that now we have some Copilot. Everyone has some Copilot now. There's Copilot everywhere. It was one of the main themes, if not the main theme, of Microsoft Ignite, which was 2 weeks ago from today. So what exactly do we have capability-wise from Copilot in Fabric, and what can we use it for? Let's explore a little bit. So first of all, some basic information here. Copilot in Microsoft Fabric is not supported on trial SKUs, meaning if you signed up for a Fabric trial and you want to try out Copilot, that is simply not possible. Sorry to disappoint, but that is the case. You need to have a paid Microsoft Fabric subscription, and furthermore, it needs to be at least the size of an F64 or higher, or a P1 and higher. So either a Power BI Premium capacity or a Fabric capacity of an capacity unit size larger than 64. So that's a requirement, and it's not supported if you don't have that. Furthermore, even if you have that, Microsoft is enabling Copilot in stages. So not everyone will have access, even though they have this capacity. It's being rolled out continuously, and the only thing we can find on the documentation pages is that Microsoft is claiming that everyone will have access by March 2024. So if you're sitting out there and you have the right license, you have the right capacity, and you really want to test out these features or try them out or even use them, there's only two ways for you to go about this. Either wait it out and hope that it'll be rolled out soon, or reach out to someone, some contact from Microsoft, your Microsoft representative, and ask them if there are possibilities of being fast-tracked for this rollout or something. Because there's no button to activate it, there's no setting in your admin center. It's rolled out continuously. So once it's rolled out, of course, you need to go and enable it as well in the admin center. But it's you could be stopped by simply not having the feature in your specific tenant yet. Something to be very aware about. So the first feature from Copilot that I would like to point out today is the narrative visuals. So narrative visuals is not a completely new thing. We already had the opportunities to make some visuals be more like written text, where you could do a summary of the page, or you could make a comment on some specific data. So the new thing is that the new narrative visuals is built on Copilot. It uses the OpenAI engine behind the scenes to really superpower what we can do with natural language questions, and of course the text and the answers has been getting much better. So what we can do is we can set up standard questions, standard prompts, standard summaries we want to make, and once we've set this up in our visualization, well, then every time we refresh our data or page, this summary is going to be updated as well, meaning that we could set this up once, and then still every time someone is using the report, it will have a fresh new summary or conclusion or just comments on the data. And all of this is chosen by how we write and design those prompts inside the narrative visual. So we can, as you can see on the page here, we can also make some specific settings here where we can choose which data to include and which not, and we can make sure everything is selected or none is selected and only a few measures or something like that. So we can specify what kind of data it should use for its contextual awareness before writing this. It's a really neat addition. And then you see here in the demo here, we have an example here. Go here to the visual, write our description. It could be like here, summarize 5 key insights, and then it's there. So it's a simple point and click. Create the visual, write your prompt, and then the information comes from the AI language engine. Then we also have, of course, Copilot for Power BI report authoring. So today we can go into Fabric, we can target some data set or some data, and we can have Copilot create a whole starting point for a report for us. So we write a prompt, we describe what we want to report, what we want to visualize on this page, and it creates a page for us with the kind of getting started point. Of course, it's not going to be perfect. Of course, it's not going to hit whatever our stakeholders need or ourselves what we need at the first go, but it will give us a neat starting point, and we can go and change some visualizations and yeah, use this as our starting draft. So again, a very nice way to get out of this so-called fear of the blank paper, or how we want to describe it. So in this case, we can do things like suggest content for the report, and it will basically make the report for us. Then we also have Copilot for Data Factory, but only for the data flows artifact in Data Factory. So if you're looking for help with your Data Factory data pipelines in Microsoft Fabric, then I'm sorry to disappoint you. There's no Copilot features for that yet. But if you're using data flows generation 2 inside Data Fabric to do your data ingestion or your data transformations, you can now use Copilot to help you create the right steps to transform, to merge, to join, to manipulate your data. And that can now be done with simple language queries. Like the example here where we're asking it to only keep European countries, and it recognizes itself what kind of column we could mean when we're talking about only keeping European companies. So it automatically detects what column should I do a filter on, it recognizes what value should I filter on, and then it implements that into our steps. And since it's data flow, we can always just remove that step again and start over, try over, and then redo it. So it's pretty nice how it's contextualizing. It understands the data that we're working with. So whenever we ask it something, it will then use whatever our columns are called. It will infer which it should do the transformations on, and it will then make its best guess, because guessing is what it does. So it's again, it's not perfect. I don't think any of us expects that we can rely on just saying, get me data from this database and just clean everything up and transform it the way that it becomes a neat star schema, and then give me the output of that data and everything should be good, and expect that it then gives us the perfect result that we need. That's not what it's for. At least it's not in that stage at all yet, but it can help us do that next simple step of transformation, and maybe just teach us a thing or two about how we could have done it otherwise than we would have done it ourselves. Then we finally also have Copilot for Notebooks. Copilot for Notebooks is really interesting. Because in Notebooks we are writing actual code. And Copilot, as well as ChatGPT, OpenAI, all these large language models are surprisingly good at writing programming code. So being able to just ask questions to a code, have it summarize, what does this workbook do? What does this specific command do? Can you please change this code into something else? Or just from a start, write, please ingest data from this data sort and do X, Y, Z to the data and give me that code back. This it can help us work with. One of the examples here is load data from my lake house into a data frame. Well, we could just use language, and Copilot will then help us build it. Finally, we also have the chat magics, the so-called chat magics. So magics is a way to change the programming language in our notebooks for each of the individual cells. And with the chat magics, we can now ask questions or prompts to our Copilot directly inside the notebooks, and we can have an output. And that output could either be some raw text that can help us move forward, or it could be some actual code that we could then implement. So again, a very neat addition. And now it's time for the probably biggest announcement of the month. It's the release of this guy, the release of Microsoft Fabric, because Fabric is now general availability, meaning we can actually start taking the platform very serious and look at if it should be if it's something that should be housing our next data platform. So what exactly are some of the considerations we need to make if we need to evaluate if Fabric is something for us? First of all, we need to acknowledge that Fabric is a simplified architecture. It takes the complexity of what we could build in cloud solutions, and then it makes a lot of choices for us. So it makes sure that the security is somewhat acceptable. It makes sure there is a proper architecture, that the tools can communicate with each other, that data can flow between the different artifacts and the different workspaces and so on. And all of this is a managed solution, so all of this is just handled. We can then just focus on developing kick-ass solutions. We can use the proper tools to do our data transformations, and we can rely on Microsoft making the choices about the overarching underlying architecture for us. Of course, for someone who has very high production grade or enterprise specific needs, those may not be part of the chosen settings, chosen from configurations in Fabric. So in Fabric, some of these dials that we can switch on and buttons we can click, those choices have been taken for us. And if we want to do something very specific or heavily optimize a specific workload, well, then maybe something like Azure Synapse is more ideal for our use case. But if we have a more general need and we just need a platform to get starting making some value-adding cool data solutions, well, then Fabric is definitely to be considered. It's also a great platform if we want to increase the collaboration around our data. So Fabric really unifies this collaboration by standardizing how we store our data and what format we store it in. So with OneLake in Fabric, we are standardizing on storing our data in a data lake manner, meaning even if we do a SQL warehouse or we do a data lake or whatever, the main storage where data is actually lying is on a data lake. And then we still get the vast different experiences. But this means that people can easily talk to each other, because when the data analyst needs some output from a data scientist, they can easily just point them towards the data inside OneLake, say, well, the data is there, can you please make a machine learning model? Data scientists can pick it up, crunch the data, generate some insight, and save that data directly back into the same platform, so the data analyst can get started using this for reporting or something else immediately. So no more sending CSVs back and forth over email, no more productionizing things by having some shared folders in Teams or something like that. A proper way to unify and store our data in a, could almost call it a data hub. Finally, it's also a platform that allows us to do vast different array of different architectures. So it's flexible. We can do real-time workloads. We can do machine learning. We can do some chat with your data kind of workloads, combining Copilot and Fabric and Power BI. We could do classical data warehouse using SQL. We could do a lakehouse, or we could do PySpark transformations, and we can design the solutions in the best way that we see fit. So let's finish here by talking a little bit about the prices, because we also got some new insights to the prices of Fabric after the latest release. So Fabric comes with a bunch of different tiers, with F64 being a significant one, because any capacity larger than F64 comes with the traditional free Power BI licenses for developers that we also have from Power BI Premium, meaning that we could save some licensing cost by going up to this capacity size. But if we need smaller than that, we can rely on the smaller capacity. So we already had some prices here as pay-as-you-go prices. So the new thing is that if we sign up for reservations, we can now save up to 41% on our Fabric capacity by reserving for a given period in time. So that's a pretty remarkable saving right there. It should really be considered. Finally, there's also some expenses for storage. It's not very much, and for most organizations, this will be a non-issue. The main main price will be the compute. And Microsoft is also warning us that there may come some networking billing at some point in this future, but for now, it is not applicable. So that was it for today. The release of Fabric, general availability, it's gone live, it's can be used for production scenario, it's a supported feature for Microsoft, and that was the big news for November in the world of Fabric. So enjoy the rest of November and have a nice Christmas when you get there, and till next time, see you all.